If you're watching this video right now, take a moment to pause. December 15th isn't just another date on the calendar. It's a pivotal moment, a destiny trigger point that doesn't announce itself with fanfare, but quietly shifts everything. While most people will wake up, scroll through their feeds, and repeat their daily routines, you might already be sensing it. A strange stillness, a pull inward, a feeling that something irreversible has begun. This isn't the energy of fear, it's the energy of alignment. Today, the universe isn't testing you, it's activating you. In this video, I'm revealing 8 spiritual signs that only truly awakened souls will recognize, signs that confirm your soul contract has entered its next phase. Stay with me until the very end, because once you recognize these signs, you won't be able to unsee what's unfolding. Sign 1. The silence gets louder. One of the very first signs activating on December 15th is often misunderstood. It's a profound silence, not emptiness, confusion, or loneliness, but a vibrant stillness that feels profoundly alive. This isn't a dead or hollow quiet. It's an aware silence, as if something is actively listening back to you. You might notice your usual emotional reactions beginning to soften. Situations that once triggered strong responses now pass without disturbing you. You no longer feel the need to defend yourself, justify your choices, or explain your feelings to people who wouldn't understand anyway. There's a newfound comfort in these quiet moments, not because you're disconnecting, but because you're finally connecting inward. This isn't withdrawal, it's your nervous system syncing with a higher frequency. For months or even years, your energy may have been overstimulated by noise, expectations, pressure, opinions, deadlines, and emotional demands. December 15th acts like a cosmic reset switch, lowering the static so your inner signal can come through with clarity. Astrologically, this day carries a stabilizing cosmic pressure. Think of it as spiritual gravity, an energy that pulls scattered thoughts and emotions back into alignment. Chaos doesn't disappear. It compresses into clarity. Spiritually, this is the moment your soul stops seeking external validation. You no longer need constant reassurance or approval. You no longer feel compelled to announce your growth because something inside you knows what's real, doesn't need witnesses. This silence feels louder now because your intuition has moved into the driver's seat. The mind, which once tried to control everything, finally relaxes. Thoughts slow down naturally, not because you force them, but because they're no longer in charge. You might find yourself sitting still without distraction, breathing deeper, effortlessly observing rather than reacting. This isn't boredom, it's alignment. When silence arrives at this level, it's a sign that your soul has reached a point of internal agreement. The constant inner debate quiets, and the tug-of-war between fear and desire dissolves. You no longer need immediate answers, and that's how you know you're close to the truth. Many people mistake this phase for nothing happening, but in reality, everything is happening beneath the surface. This is destiny calibration. The moment before movement, when the universe adjusts your internal settings so that what comes next arrives without resistance. You are being tuned, not tested, positioned, not paused. If December 15th feels quieter than expected, resist the urge to fill the space. Don't distract yourself from the stillness. Sit with it, because silence isn't the absence of direction. It's the sound of your soul finally being heard. Sign 2. You stop swinging between hope and fear. The second sign, activating on December 15th, is subtle, but once you notice it, you'll realize how powerful it truly is. You stop swinging between hope and fear. This isn't because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because your emotional center shifts. Things that once triggered anxiety no longer hook into you the same way. Situations that used to spiral your thoughts now feel distant, manageable, almost neutral. At the same time, Things that once excited you excessively praise validation, attention outcomes begin to feel unnecessary. Not unwanted, just unimportant. This isn't numbness, it's emotional mastery. On December 15th, awakened souls step out of survival polarity, the emotional state where life feels like a constant swing between what if it works and what if it fails. That polarity belongs to an old timeline where emotions were shaped by uncertainty and control. Now something stabilizes. You are no longer ruled by highs or lows. You are anchored in knowing. This knowing doesn't shout, doesn't hype, doesn't dramatize. It simply is. Emotionally, this shift shows up in quiet but undeniable ways. You respond calmly in moments where you used to react instantly. You pause naturally, not to suppress emotion, but because emotion no longer overwhelms your system. You feel detached without being cold. You still care, you still feel, but you no longer cling. You experience peace without needing answers. You don't demand immediate clarity or pressure the future to reveal itself early. This neutrality is rare because most people aren't ready to let go of emotional extremes. Highs feel addictive, lows feel familiar, and together they create identity. This neutrality doesn't make you passive, it makes you precise. You stop over-investing energy where it isn't required. You stop leaking emotion into situations that no longer deserve access to you. Here's the truth. Most people don't realize emotional neutrality isn't the absence of passion. It's passion that has found its center. For those not aligned, this state feels temporary and uncomfortable. They rush back to drama, urgency, and emotional noise because silence feels unfamiliar. But for awakened souls, this neutrality marks entry into a new soul timeline, one where creation replaces reaction. You're no longer chasing outcomes or emotionally bargaining with the universe. You're allowing inevitability. This is the emotional state that precedes destiny movement. When your inner world stabilizes, the outer world begins to reorganize around you. Nothing needs to be forced now. Nothing needs to be proven. Because when emotional extremes dissolve, clarity rises naturally, and from clarity, alignment follows. Sign 3. Time feels compressed or irrelevant. As December 15th activates, one of the strangest yet clearest signs begins to unfold. Your relationship with time changes. Time doesn't disappear. It simply loses its grip on you. You may notice hours slipping by effortlessly. Moments stretch and compress in unexpected ways. Days feel shorter, yet somehow fuller, as if more meaning is packed into less time. And the future, it feels closer, but strangely undefined. This shift happens when your soul exits linear expectation. For a long time, you may have lived by timelines. When will this happen? How long will it take? What if I'm running out of time? On December 15th, those questions begin to fade, not because you've received answers, but because the need for them dissolves. You stop asking when will it happen, because a part of you already knows it's already in motion. Astrologically, this is known as timeline convergence, where multiple potential futures collapse into one aligned path. Instead of branching endlessly, your energy commits to a single trajectory. That's why time feels different. You're no longer oscillating between possibilities. Spiritually, this is destiny, locking in. You may feel it as a quiet certainty, not excitement, not urgency, but a calm sense that things are unfolding, whether you push or not. This is also why the urge to rush decisions fades. You don't feel pressured to choose quickly or force clarity. Delays no longer feel threatening. They feel intentional. You trust that what's meant for you cannot miss you. That trust changes everything. You may notice fewer thoughts about figuring everything out. The mental need to plan every step softens. You're still responsible, still aware, but you're no longer anxious. This is not laziness, it's energetic confidence. The universe doesn't require panic from aligned souls. Once your path is selected, timing becomes cooperative instead of adversarial. You're not late. You're not early. You're exactly positioned. Time compression also brings sharper intuition. You may suddenly know when to act and when to wait without logical explanation. You may sense windows opening and closing instinctively. This is because your awareness is no longer trapped in past regret or future anticipation. You're anchored in the present, where power actually exists. For those not awakened, this state can feel disorienting. They mistake it for confusion and rush to reattach themselves to clocks, deadlines, and external pressure. But for chosen ones, this is freedom. You've stepped into timeless alignment, where movement happens precisely when it should not, when fear demands it. December 15th doesn't speed up your destiny. It removes unnecessary waiting. Because when the soul commits, time responds. And once time loosens its grip, everything begins to flow. Sign 4. Old desires quietly fade away. This sign often confuses people the most because it doesn't arrive with drama or disappointment. It arrives quietly. On December 15th, you may suddenly notice that things you once believed were essential no longer hold the same pull. Goals you chased, outcomes you visualized, identities you tried to build. This shift can feel strange at first. You might wonder if you've lost motivation, direction, or ambition. But look closer. What's fading isn't desire itself, it's attachment. You may feel a growing disinterest in proving yourself. The need to be seen, validated, or recognized begins to dissolve, not from bitterness, but from completion. You may also notice a lack of motivation for ego-driven goals. Not all goals, just the ones rooted in comparison, pressure, or external approval. What once felt urgent now feels optional. At the same time, a deeper pull emerges, a quiet shift toward meaning over achievement. You begin asking different questions. Does this align with who I am becoming? Does this feel true or just impressive? Is this fulfilling or just familiar? This is identity shedding. December 15th initiates a soul-level decluttering, not by forcibly removing people or paths, but by naturally dissolving attachments. There's no crisis, no loss, just a gentle release. You don't need to aggressively cut ties or burn bridges. You simply stop carrying what no longer belongs to you. What's important to understand is this: nothing is being taken from you. Everything is being refined. Refinement doesn't mean less, it means more precise. Your energy is no longer scattered across outdated desires. It's being reclaimed and redirected. This phase often comes with a sense of emotional lightness. You may feel less driven by urgency and more guided by clarity. You no longer feel behind because the race itself no longer defines you. For those not ready, this phase can feel uncomfortable. They mistake it for emptiness and rush to replace old desires with new distractions. But for chosen ones, this is a sacred pause. The space between who you were and who you're becoming. Old desires don't vanish because they were wrong. They fade because they've served their purpose. Your soul is no longer interested in proving worth. It's interested in expressing truth. December 15th doesn't strip you of ambition. It purifies it. What remains is desire that's aligned, sustainable, and deeply fulfilling goals that feel natural instead of forced visions that feel inevitable instead of exhausting. When old desires fade without pain, it's a sign you're no longer chasing life. Life is beginning to respond to you. And that's when everything starts to align. Sign 5. You trust inner signals without needing proof. On December 15th, something subtle but undeniable shifts. Intuition stops whispering. It doesn't beg for attention anymore. It doesn't repeat itself. It directs. You may notice yourself making decisions without overthinking them. Choices arise and settle almost instantly, without the usual mental debate. There's no anxiety afterward, no second guessing, just a quiet sense of rightness. You may feel certainty without logic, not because logic disappears, but because it's no longer leading. Your mind becomes a translator instead of a commander. It follows what your inner guidance has already chosen. You may also find yourself declining opportunities without guilt. Things that once felt too good to pass up no longer override your inner signals. You don't feel the need to explain your reasons or justify your instincts. This is not recklessness. This is alignment intelligence. Alignment intelligence doesn't rush, panic, or react. It moves with precision. It knows what fits and what doesn't without needing evidence first. Your soul has already rehearsed this timeline. Your mind is just catching up. This is why trust feels natural now. You're not gambling on intuition. You're remembering it. The guidance feels familiar, almost obvious, like following directions you already know. You no longer ask others what they think first, not out of arrogance or isolation, but because your inner authority has matured. Advice may still be welcome, but it's no longer required for validation. You listen inward first. That's because your higher self has taken command. When this happens, external noise loses its power. Opinions don't sway you easily. Trends don't pull you off course. You can sense alignment instantly, and misalignment even faster. This kind of intuition doesn't feel emotional or dramatic. It feels neutral, clear, and steady. You may notice fewer explanations needed, less hesitation before action, and more confidence in silence. Your inner signals don't come with urgency. They come with calm certainty. And that calm is the key. It tells you this guidance isn't coming from fear or desire. It's coming from truth. December 15th marks the point where intuition becomes operational instead of theoretical. You don't just believe in it, you live by it. For those not ready, this level of inner trust feels uncomfortable. They mistake it for risk and rush back to external approval. They ask for signs, confirmation, reassurance. But for chosen ones, the sign is internal. Once this shift locks in, life becomes simpler. Decisions take less energy. Doubt loses momentum. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't need explanations. Because when your higher self is in command, you don't need permission to follow your path. You move when it's time, you wait when it's not, and both feel equally right. This is what it means to be guided, not controlled. And from this point forward, the path ahead doesn't require proof. It requires trust. Sign 7. You no longer relate to your old identity. This sign can feel unsettling at first, not because something is wrong, but because something irreversible is happening. You may catch yourself looking at your past self and thinking, that version doesn't exist anymore. There's no regret attached to the thought, no shame, no emotional charge, just distance. You don't feel angry at who you were. You don't feel proud either. You simply feel separate. Old labels no longer fit. Roles you once played with confidence now feel heavy, restrictive, or strangely inaccurate. Stories you used to tell about yourself don't land the same way anymore. This isn't confusion. This is soul repositioning. December 15th doesn't gently adjust your identity. It replaces outdated self-definitions, not by force, not through crisis, but through clarity. You begin to realize that much of who you thought you were was shaped by survival expectation or circumstance. Those identities served a purpose, but they were never permanent. Now, they're complete. You may notice you don't introduce yourself the same way anymore, not just in words, but in energy. You don't lead with history. You don't anchor yourself to old roles or accomplishments. You simply are. This shift can feel disorienting because the ego wants continuity. It wants a storyline that makes sense. But the soul doesn't operate on narratives. It operates on truth. And truth doesn't need to stay consistent with the past. You may feel less attached to opinions about you, both good and bad. Praise doesn't inflate you. Criticism doesn't destabilize you. That's because your identity is no longer externally referenced. It's internally anchored. This doesn't mean you've lost yourself. It means you've stopped pretending. December 15th marks the moment you stop carrying identities that required effort to maintain. Masks dissolve naturally. Performance fades. You don't feel the need to be anything specific to anyone anymore. That freedom can feel strange at first. Without old labels, there's space. Without old roles, there's openness. Without old narratives, there's silence. But that silence isn't emptiness. It's possibility. You're not becoming someone new. You're returning to someone truer, someone that existed before conditioning, before expectation, before adaptation. This is why the change feels calm instead of dramatic. You're not breaking apart. You're settling into alignment. For those not ready, this phase can feel like a loss. They rush to reclaim old identities because familiarity feels safe. But for chosen ones, this feels like relief. You no longer need to explain who you are. You no longer need to defend your evolution. You no longer need to carry a name for your becoming. You're standing in a version of yourself that doesn't need validation, only expression. And once this identity shift locks in, nothing from the past can fully claim you again, because you've moved not away from who you were, but closer to who you truly are. Sign 8. A calm, knowing locks. In the final sign is the most powerful. Not because it's dramatic, but because its absolute urgency disappears. Not slowly, not gradually, it simply releases its grip. You stop checking timelines. You stop forcing movement. You stop scanning the future for reassurance. There's nothing to prove anymore, nothing to chase, nothing to rush. Instead, a calm certainty settles in. Not excitement, not anticipation, not emotional highs, just knowing. This is destiny lock-in. It's the moment your soul commits fully to its path, and the universe responds by reorganizing everything around you without noise or spectacle. You may notice subtle shifts begin to happen on their own. People naturally move closer or drift away without conflict. Opportunities begin to emerge in unexpected but logical ways, not overwhelming, not chaotic, simply timed. They don't demand urgency. They feel obvious when they appear, paths clear without effort. You're not pushing through resistance anymore. You're not forcing outcomes to cooperate because destiny doesn't rush. It aligns. This calm knowing feels different from hope. Hope still needs reassurance. Hope still waits for confirmation. Knowing doesn't. Knowing is settled. You may still not have all the details. You may not see the full picture yet, but you don't feel anxious about what you don't know. You trust what's unfolding without needing to understand it immediately. This is the emotional and energetic state where reality reshapes itself most efficiently. When urgency dissolves, resistance collapses. When resistance collapses, movement becomes natural. This is why things start to fall into place quietly after December 15th. Not because you're doing more, but because you're interfering less. Your energy is no longer sending mixed signals. You're no longer pulling toward the future while fearing it at the same time. Your inner world is in agreement. And when inner agreement exists, the outer world responds with precision. For many people, this state feels unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. They're used to measuring progress through tension, effort, and emotional intensity. But for chosen ones, calm is the signal. It means the struggle phase is over. It means alignment has locked in. It means destiny is now moving through you, not toward you. From this point forward, things won't feel forced. You'll know when to move. You'll know when to wait. And both will feel equally right. This calm knowing doesn't fade. It deepens. Because once destiny locks in, it doesn't ask for attention. It simply unfolds. And this is the sign that the transformation is complete. December 15th didn't come to shake your world. It came to quietly rearrange it. Nothing dramatic had to happen on the outside for something permanent to lock in on the inside. No announcements were required. No proof was demanded. No urgency was necessary. What shifted today didn't need permission. It moved beneath the surface, where real transformation always begins. From this point forward, you may notice something different in the way you move through life. Decisions won't feel heavy anymore. You won't feel pulled to explain yourself. You won't feel pressured to chase clarity, because clarity is now within you. Your intuition will lead not loudly, not emotionally, but steadily. Your energy will communicate before your words ever do, and your life will begin unfolding with less effort and far more accuracy. You are not behind schedule. You are not late to anything. You are not missing what's meant for you. If it hasn't arrived yet, it's because it's still aligning, not because you failed to earn it. This is why silence replaced noise. This is why the need for reassurance faded. Trust that. Trust the stillness you feel now. Trust the inner quiet that doesn't need answers. Trust the sense that something has already changed, even if the world around you looks the same. Because destiny doesn't activate with chaos, it activates with certainty. And once certainty settles in, reality has no choice but to reorganize around it. People will shift naturally. Paths will open without force. Opportunities will arrive without pressure, not because you chased them, but because you aligned with who you're meant to be. This isn't the end of the journey. It's the moment the struggle phase dissolves. From here on, things won't feel forced. They'll feel inevitable. And if your heart feels calm instead of excited right now, that's not a lack of energy. That's alignment locking in. Remember this moment, because this calm, this knowing, this quiet certainty is how the next chapter begins.